Let's talk about fire insurance, particularly the idea of co-insurance. And here's the idea. When we have a fire, it very seldom results in a total 100% loss. Very seldom do you see a building burn completely to the ground. There's nothing left of it. Nothing can be salvaged. You might as well have taken a bulldozer and knocked it down and started completely over. That doesn't happen very often. So here's the idea. If I'm the consumer and I'm saying, why should I, if this building is worth $200,000, if that's the market value of the building, or the replacement cost, or whatever I'm calling it, why should I buy $200,000 worth of fire insurance if there's not much chance it's ever going to burn completely to the ground? Okay, why don't I just buy $100,000? Well, that's really not fair to the insurance company for me to buy $100,000 and then them have to pay all the $100,000 if there's only a $100,000 fire. So here's the compromise. What the insurance company says is, if you'll buy 80%, if you'll buy 80% coverage, and that 80% is called the co-insurance clause, or the co-insurance amount. If you'll buy 80% of the value, then if you have a fire anywhere up to 80% of that amount, then we will cover the entire damage. Okay, that seems like a good compromise. So in this case, we would multiply the value by 200,000, and the insurance company says as long as you buy at least $160,000 worth, then as long as the fire is not more than that in terms of the damage, we'll pay all of it. So here's what happens. If we want to know how much, let's say we have a loss of $120,000. Let's say we have this building burns and it's $120,000 in damage. Now, if we bought $160,000 worth, then the insurance company is going to write us a check for $120,000. They'll cover all of it because we bought all that we were supposed to. But what if we didn't buy all that we were supposed to? What if we only bought $80,000 worth of coverage? Well, the insurance company says, here's what you were supposed to buy. That's the denominator of the fraction. That's 80% of the value. That's the denominator of the fraction. And whatever you bought, that's the numerator of the fraction, and that's what percent we're going to pay of the loss. So if you only bought half as much as you were supposed to, then we're only going to pay half of the loss. We're going to write you a check for $60,000, and you're going to have to take care of that other $60,000. That's why it's called co-insurance. You're sharing the insurance burden with the company when you don't buy that full 80% amount. Now, what if we had bought the full $160,000? Well, then that's 100% times 120,000. The insurance company would pay the whole damage. Okay. How does that feel? We take the value, we multiply it by 80%, that becomes the denominator of a fraction. So this is the 80% of the value. The numerator of the fraction is our actual coverage. How much insurance did we actually buy? Actual coverage is the numerator. So if we bought $100,000 worth and we had a $120,000 loss, we would say take 100,000, divide it by 160,000, multiply it times 120,000. That's how much they're going to pay us. Okay? This would be the insurance, the claim check that they would write to us. So let's figure that out. That's 5/8. Somebody punch in 100 divided by 160 times 120. $75,000? Okay. So they would pay us $75,000 and we'd be out that other $45,000. We'd have to cover that ourselves. Based on the rates that they have in the tables in the book, it looked to me like you should always buy that 80% coverage, because it's just not worth taking the chance. Because that's why you buy fire insurance. If you're going to buy the insurance, you want it to be covered if it burns. Now, what if you buy more than that coverage? Why would you buy more than that coverage? Well, that's right, you might say, what if it does burn to the ground? I don't want to have to pay $40,000. I'm going to go ahead and buy $200,000. I'm going to buy full coverage on it. Okay? So let's say we bought full coverage on it. Well, now this breaks down a little bit. This argument doesn't hold. Is an insurance company ever going to write us a check for more than the amount of the damage? No. No. Even though this is more than 100% of that, they're still only going to write it for the amount of the damage. Now, you're not going to have to worry about that in any of the problems here or on the test, but just in real life, an insurance company is going to pay the lowest of one of three numbers. They're never going to pay more than the loss. They're never going to pay more than what you paid for coverage, and they're never going to pay more than the value of what it's worth. Okay? But those things aside, if you buy less than the 80% coverage, then they take that fraction, multiply it times the loss, and that's what they pay you.